Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Stacey. This is the books that I read for the first half of March. It seems like I read a lot, but a lot of these were small, like novella size. So I wanted to film this before I forget. I'm sitting outside letting my chickens free range today, so you might see them wander by or you might hear them in the background. Hopefully my rooster isn't too loud. This rooster is not the same as my last rooster who would crow every time he heard me speak, so that's a good thing. This is a really good rooster. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. The first book that I read was Beneath the Deep by Andrea Chatman. This was a Christian sci-fi book, and that was really cool because I don't feel like there's a whole lot of those. I saw somebody mention it on the Avid Readers for Christian Fiction Facebook page, and I thought it sounded really good. I forget what I read it on, maybe Kindle Unlimited. But anyway, this book was a whole lot of fun. It was very action adventure type of story with sci-fi thrown in. It was about a girl whose uncle goes missing. He's kidnapped, and the search for him and why he was kidnapped and the kind of things he was working on and the research. He dealt with sea monsters basically, and she also worked with ocean stuff. I forget exactly what she did, but she dealt with like things in the ocean, and she lived in Hawaii. So this takes place in Hawaii and also Iowa because her uncle was a professor at a college in Iowa and also out in the middle of nowhere in the ocean. There was a lot of faith content in this book, and I think it was a whole lot of fun, and I really recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. The next one I read was The Berlin Apartment by Bryn Turnbull. This one I got because I am really going through a phase of like Eastern Europe right now. I want to read all the stuff with like Eastern Europe. When my husband was in the Marines, his MOS or his job that he did was intelligence. He was an intelligence analyst, and when we were stationed in England, that was his area of expertise, was like Eastern Europe and the Baltic Sea states. And so with all this stuff going on in the news lately, I've just been asking him a ton of questions, trying to understand all the things. And that definitely has put me in a rabbit hole, deep dive. I want to like go far back into the history of, like how these different countries got set up and their politics and all the things. So yeah, I'm interested in that area of the world right now. So I picked up The Berlin Apartment. I wanted a different book. Was it called The Berlin Letters? There's another book that I wanted to read instead, but it wasn't available from my library, and The Berlin Apartment was listed with it as like a suggested book, so I got this one. This one is about a couple who gets engaged, and basically the very next day, the wall that separates East and West Germany goes up, and they are on separate sides of it, and they can't get back to each other. So it is their story of how they deal with that situation and how their lives go on for like the next, 20 years. I kind of wanted more about like Germany itself and the wall itself and like the politics part of it, and less of their story. And I didn't love their story or them as people too much. So I gave this book 3 stars just because it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. The next one I read was Bound by Mystery by Christy Barritt. This was a novella, and it was, I want to say, book 3 in this series. They're all novellas, so it's just a quick, easy read. It's about a woman who buys a bookstore / coffee shop in the beach in North Carolina, and murders happen in that area or in her bookshop. So it's solving that. It's a cozy mystery. It's a novella. It's cute. It was quick, and I'm trying to read mysteries for March Mystery Madness. I'm not following any of the prompts or anything, but I am trying to read mysteries. So that was my first one. I gave it 3 stars. The next one was another mystery cozy novella. That was Halfwitted by Christy Barritt. This is part of a regular series, like of a series of regular size books, but it's a novella that is placed somewhere in between in the series. I didn't realize that. I thought it was its own separate thing. So I read this first. I would have waited to read this. There's an airplane. Can you hear that? It's right over my head. Let's take a break. It's about a woman who wants to be a forensics detective, but she had to quit college early to take care of her dad. And in the meantime, she has started her own business to where she cleans up crime scenes. So like if a murder takes place and there's a mess, she goes and cleans it up. So she gets to kind of work with crime scenes and around crime scenes and, you know, try to figure things out. So it's still kind of part of what she wants to do, but it helps her to, you know, have an income. So in this story, she is helping a friend of hers who, I think he was like a hospice guy, like a hospice nurse or something, and his patient died and he needed to leave the scene for some reason. And he asked her if she could stick around and kind of watch the body until, I guess, the morgue shows up to collect it. And while she's watching it, the body goes missing. Somebody took the body. So she has to go search for it. So it was quite funny, and reading that book made me want to find the first book in the regular series. The next one I read, I was trying to combine March Mystery Madness and Middle Grade March. I don't normally read middle grade books, but I had this one on my shelf. I bought this one with my kids when we were on a field trip to St. John's Church in Richmond, Virginia. That is the church where Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or give me death, where that famous speech was. So we were on a field trip there, and I saw this book and thought my kids would like it. I don't know if they ever read it or not, but I thought it would be perfect to combine, just a rooster. I thought it would be perfect to combine the mystery and middle grade. It's called Mystery on Church Hill by Stephen K. Smith. It is book 2 in the Virginia Mysteries series. I gave it 4 stars. It was well done. It's about a middle grade boy. I think he's maybe in 8th grade. And he goes on a field trip with his class to St. John's. And while he's there, he overhears some men with a plot to steal a treasure. It was pretty cute. It teaches you a lot. So if you're interested in like Virginia history especially, I would recommend that. The next one I read was The Captain and Miss Winter by Sally Britton. This is book 2 of the Forever After retellings. This was a fairy tale retelling about Snow White and Rose Red. Is that right? I've never read the original, so I don't really know the story, and I don't know if this story really goes along with that story. I just don't know. This one was about 2 sisters and their grandmother who are living in a small little house in the middle of the woods, like out nowhere, France. Yeah, they were in France. And a captain from the English army comes across them. I think he's cold. He's like searching in the snow for a treasure, and he gets cold, and they take him in and like help him get warm and feed him and stuff. And he ends up staying there for a while, and a romance happens. It was pretty short. I think this was a novella because not a whole lot happened in this story. It was mainly like the romance, but it was cute. If you're looking for like a palate cleanser or something easy, breezy, like nothing bad happens in this story. It was a nice romance, historical. I would recommend it. It was cute. I think I gave it 4 stars. The next one that I read was another mystery, A Quiet Life in the Country by T.E. Kinsey. I really enjoyed this one. This was book 1 of a series, and I don't remember the series name, but it takes place in like the 1920s, 1930s in the Cotswolds in England. I love that time period, and I love that setting. I really enjoyed the characters. This was about, I want to say a woman in her 40s. Like she comes across as a bit older. She's a widow, and she has like a servant or helper. I don't know exactly what she was, kind of like a lady's maid type of person. So it's mainly about these 2 women, and they live together, and they had lived in China and I want to say India, and they were involved in some really like crazy things. They come across as people who like used to be spies, and now they're trying to live like this quiet life or be retired. The story was kind of interesting because it kept going back and talking about things that they used to do. And so this was book 1, but it felt like it was a book later in the series, and like I should already know these things. But I think it's just kind of leading up to like slowly tell you things about these women over time. But yeah, they are really interesting ladies, and I loved how they talk to each other. They live in this little British town, and I want to say 2 murders happened, and they have to solve it. It's your typical British cozy mystery, but it was really cute, and I definitely will continue on with the series. But yeah, those are the books that I read for the first part of March. I feel like I had a nice mixture going on there with some historical fiction, some fairy tales, some mystery, middle grade. It was pretty nice. But yeah, I think that's all I've got for this video. I hope y'all are having a great day, and I will see y'all soon. Bye.